Welcome to the Global WarWatch Network. Imagine this. One of the most advanced, top secret fighter jets in the world. It's not soaring through the skies, no. It's sitting grounded at a civilian airport,
Right.
racking up parking fees, believe it or not, and, well, becoming the unlikely star of internet memes.
Quite the image.
That's right, you heard me. This is our deep dive into the really curious case of a stranded British F-35B fighter jet in India. We're pulling insights today from, well, quite a few places. The Economic Times, an article specifically about this, Wayward F-35, a pretty comprehensive report on the F-35 program's overall reliability issues, and the UK's own Strategic Defense Review 2025.
A lot to unpack there.
Exactly. Our mission today is to pull out the most important, nuggets of knowledge from this genuinely fascinating incident and connect it to the bigger picture. We're talking modern warfare, tech challenges, global defense strategies, the works.
Okay.
So let's set the scene for you. It was June 14th, 2025. A British Royal Navy F-35B, fresh from some joint maritime exercises, makes an unexpected emergency landing at Trivandrum International Airport in India. And this wasn't just like a quick refuel stop.
Oh, definitely not.
It was triggered by a bit of a triple whammy: bad weather, low fuel, and apparently a reported hydraulic system fault.
What's truly noteworthy here, I think, isn't just the emergency landing itself, but the aircraft involved. This was reportedly the first time a British F-35B had ever been stranded like this in a foreign country.
First time. Wow.
Especially one that isn't a NATO ally. Now, the pilot, naturally, followed standard protocol, initially refusing to leave this highly advanced jet.
Understandable.
What followed then was, well, weeks of attempts by a pretty large 40-member British engineering team. They even had support from the U.S. and Lockheed Martin trying to fix it right there on the tarmac.
40 people.
But as we now know, they ultimately failed. It just couldn't be fixed on site.
When I first read about this, I immediately thought, okay, a technical fault, these things happen even with advanced tech. But then the plot thickens, doesn't it?
It does.
Indian authorities, quite reasonably you'd think, offered assistance. They even suggested moving the jet into a hangar, or maybe to an Indian Air Force Maintenance, Repair, and Overhaul Center, an MRO.
Sensible offers.
Yet British officials consistently declined these offers. Why on earth would they refuse help for a grounded, extremely valuable asset? It seems counterintuitive.
That's the crucial question, isn't it? And it really boils down to one thing: protecting the F-35B's highly sensitive stealth technology.
Ah, the secret sauce.
Exactly. We're talking about its classified coatings, its advanced sensor suites. I mean, the very essence of what makes it a fifth-generation fighter. There were clearly serious worries about exposure.
Exposure to whom, specifically?
Well, particularly given that India doesn't operate the F-35 itself and, maybe more importantly, uses Russian-built S-400 air defense systems.
Right, the S-400. That's been a sticking point before.
A major one. That's the system, remember, that famously led to NATO member Turkey being expelled from the F-35 program entirely when they decided to acquire it. So you can see the sensitivity there.
Okay, I get the sensitivity. But hold on. For over 2 weeks, this incredibly expensive, cutting-edge stealth jet just sat out there, in the open, on the tarmac.
Yep.
Even during monsoon rains, supposedly to protect its secrets from a secure hangar. Doesn't that just strike you as, well, incredibly ironic, maybe even contradictory?
It absolutely does. And aviation analysts were very quick to point out that exact paradox. Their observation was, look, keeping it exposed in plain sight at a busy civilian airport.
Where anyone could see it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Where anyone with a long lens could potentially photograph it, study it.
Oh.
That might have inadvertently revealed more than if it had been moved to a controlled, secure indoor facility. The optics of it, both literally and figuratively, were, frankly, quite poor.
So, beyond the dramatic visuals and the irony, what did this long grounding actually mean for the British taxpayer, for the wallet?
Right, the practicalities.
Trivandrum Airport authorities, well, unsurprisingly, are planning to charge the UK parking fees for the jet's extended stay. Now, while standard fees are usually weight-based, given its military and foreign status, the dues will likely be routed through central government agencies. It's not like they're just sending an invoice to the RAF.
No, it's more complex than that.
And let's not forget the cost of deploying that specialized 40-member British engineering team, plus additional U.S. personnel, for weeks on end trying to fix it.
That adds up very quickly.
It absolutely does. It significantly drove up the total cost of what was originally meant to be, a fairly routine joint exercise. A bit of a headache, I imagine.
More than a bit, I'd say.
But the story truly took on a life of its own, didn't it, in the public eye?
Oh, definitely.
The sight of this, state-of-the-art warplane sitting so awkwardly at a civilian airport surrounded by commercial airliners, it just captivated the internet.
It's an incongruous image.
Totally. Photos and videos went viral. And the memes. Oh, the memes.
Of course.
You saw captions like, stealth mode, disabled, when you miss your Uber and end up in Trivandrum, or my personal favorite, park like a VIP, grounded like a student.
Yeah. It does highlight the absurdity
It
sometimes.
really did. It just highlighted this almost absurd disconnect between this incredibly advanced, cutting-edge military design and a very mundane, very public predicament. While this specific incident in India was certainly dramatic and unexpected, it actually echoes some much longer-standing sort of fundamental concerns about the F-35 program itself, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. This isn't happening in a vacuum. What's truly striking when you look at the F-35 program is the cost. It's projected to cost over $2 trillion in its lifetime.
2 trillion.
Let that sink in. $2 trillion. That makes it by far the most expensive weapon system ever built.
Wow.
And despite all its advanced tech, the stealth, the sensor fusion, the sophisticated avionics, it has consistently faced criticism for what are known in the business as its reliability, maintainability, and availability issues. RMA for short.
$2 trillion. That's just astronomical. And you mentioned availability. I remember seeing a report, I think it was from 2023, that revealed the U.S. F-35 fleet was only available for operations about 51% of the time,
That's correct, 51%.
which is well below their own goal of 65%. Even the combat-coded aircraft only managed 61% availability. And the rate for full mission capability, being able to do everything it's designed for,
Even lower.
yeah, it was just 30% for the whole fleet. Those numbers sound quite concerning for such a huge investment.
They are concerning, and those availability rates are indeed critical metrics. Key drivers for these persistent failures include problems very similar, actually, to what we apparently saw in India, like hydraulic systems.
Right, the reported cause.
But also things like low observable repairs. Maintaining the stealth coatings themselves is complex and time-consuming, and persistent shortages of the main F-135 engine. Issues with canopies, egress systems, they're also on the list.
So a range of issues.
A whole range. And what's particularly troubling, perhaps, is that the repair times for critical failures were often double or even triple the operational requirement.
Double or triple.
Yes. Which signals pretty significant logistical and supply chain challenges for a system that's actually considered largely mature by its developers. It really raises questions about long-term sustainment costs and readiness.
So, okay, how does a single grounded jet in India and these broader systemic issues with the F-35 program tie into something as, well, sweeping as the UK's Strategic Defence Review 2025? It feels like quite a leap, maybe, from a tarmac in Trivandrum to grand national strategy.
Well, it's maybe not as large a leap as you might think. This review, the SDR 2025, which is kicked off in July 2024, is a direct response to what the UK government is calling a new era of threat.
A new era, meaning?
They're explicitly talking about Russian aggression, the reality of daily cyber attacks, and just the rapid evolution of military technology itself. All factors that they say demand a fundamental shift towards warfighting readiness and, total transformation of UK defense.
And the F-35 incident fits in how?
An incident like the F-35 grounding, which starkly highlights logistical vulnerabilities, the high cost of maintaining these cutting-edge assets. It really just underscores the urgency behind these bigger strategic shifts they're planning. It's a real-world example of the challenges.
Right. And the review proposes some pretty fundamental changes, doesn't it? I remember reading about concepts like being integrated by design,
Digitally connected.
as a unified digitally connected force, being innovation-led by aggressively adopting private sector dual-use technologies, and industry-backed through, well, radical procurement reforms, and trying to foster a stronger UK defense industrial base.
Exactly. It's quite ambitious.
And the money follows too, right? The UK is committed to increasing defense spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2027, with an ambition, they say, to reach 3% in the next parliament, all aiming to reverse what they themselves call the hollowing out of the armed forces since the Cold War ended.
Precisely. And the RAF, the Royal Air Force, which operates the F-35B, is absolutely central to this planned transformation. While the quality of their personnel and their existing platforms is, unquestionable, Its current size really reflects that post-Cold War focus, not the demands of this so-called new era.
So they need to adapt.
The review specifically calls for improved productivity, agility, and adaptability right across the force, doing more and doing it faster.
And when you talk about innovation, they're not just thinking about current fifth-gen jets like the F-35, are they? I recall reading about sixth-generation ambitions.
That's absolutely right. The F-35 is crucial for current operations, no doubt. But the UK is already looking far beyond it, toward a sixth-generation jet as part of the Global Future Combat Air System, or FCAS program.
Which involves more than just jets.
Exactly. This future system will likely include a mix of crewed platforms, uncrewed platforms, drones, and increasingly autonomous systems working together. They recognize that more F-35s will still be needed over the next
A
decade.
bridging capability.
Sort of. Potentially a mix of the A and B models to achieve better value for money and fulfill immediate needs. But the long-term future is undeniably hybrid and networked.
That focus on rapid procurement, moving from years to months or weeks, and the high-low mix of capabilities, it sounds incredibly ambitious. Moving contract awards from, years down to months or even weeks for novel technologies. Is that even realistic for a national defense apparatus? It seems like a huge cultural shift.
That's a very fair question, and yes, it is a massive undertaking. It requires fundamental changes to how procurement works. But this push for radical reform and rapid innovation is directly influenced by lessons learned from recent conflicts, most notably the war in Ukraine.
How so?
Well, there, the sheer speed of getting new, often adapted civilian technology into the hands of forces on the front line proved to be a really decisive factor. It's less about waiting years for the perfect system and more about getting good enough technology deployed quickly, iterating, adapting.
Get something useful out there fast.
Exactly. The Royal Navy, for instance, is already planning for what they call hybrid carrier air wings. That's where their F-35Bs are complemented by these autonomous collaborative platforms, wingman drones, essentially, and long-range missiles. That illustrates this very strategy in action, combining high-end platforms with faster, potentially more expendable tech.
So when we step back from the tarmac in India, the whole saga of that single-grounded F-35B becomes a truly fascinating lens, doesn't it? A way to view much larger strategic issues.
It really does.
It touches on that intricate dance of international defense cooperation versus technological secrecy, the stark economic realities of just maintaining these state-of-the-art military systems, and of course, the profound urgent shifts demanded by modern warfare.
I think what this incident truly uncovers, perhaps unintentionally, is that even when you pour $2 trillion into building the world's supposedly most sophisticated war machine, a single, maybe mundane hydraulic fault can still bring it to its knees halfway around the world.
A humbling reminder.
It really reveals just how fragile even cutting-edge defense systems can be against basic mechanical failures or logistical hurdles. And it also underscores that crucial, difficult balance nations constantly have to strike between jealously guarding highly classified assets like stealth tech and fostering the very international partnerships that are absolutely necessary for collective security in today's complex, interconnected world. You can't always have both perfectly aligned.
So ultimately, this whole incident really serves as a kind of microcosm, doesn't it? A small-scale example of the urgent need for defense organizations, not just in the UK, but globally, to do more than just acquire cutting-edge capabilities.
Right, acquisition is only part one.
They also have to fundamentally transform how they innovate, how they procure, and crucially, how they sustain these systems in an increasingly unpredictable and frankly challenging global environment. It's a challenge that reaches from that tarmac in Trivandrum right up to the highest levels of national strategy.
Well put.
We've navigated the specific details of a stranded F-35B and connected it to these monumental shifts in global defense strategy. But it makes you wonder, what might the next unexpected incident reveal? Maybe a simple supply chain hiccup, perhaps a cybersecurity breach. What will that tell us about the ongoing challenges and maybe opportunities in military technology and international cooperation?
It's a constantly evolving landscape.
It definitely is. It's certainly a question worth pondering as the world seems to become ever more interconnected and, let's face it, volatile. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Global WarWatch Network wherever you get your deep dives. We'd also really love to hear your thoughts on this incident and the future of military technology, so please do leave your comments in the section below.